In the previous episode of The Last Tape, in a desperate mission to save Diego and Takeshi from the cursed realm, Megan's team uses personal items to establish a link between worlds. Entering the dark, twisted landscape, Megan finds the boys trapped in fear, but their escape is short-lived. The entity arrives, forcing Megan into a chilling face-off with the malevolent force once again. The cursed realm pulsed with sinister energy as Megan stood alone, her heart pounding in her chest. The dark entity loomed in front of her, its presence suffocating. But just as the tension reached its peak, a voice rang out in the distance, cutting through the air like a knife. It was a desperate shout, filled with fear and defiance. The entity twisted, its focus broken. Without a sound, it vanished, slipping into the shadows and leaving the room behind. Megan gasped for air, her body trembling from the encounter. She hurried into the next room, unsure of what to expect. To her surprise, she wasn't alone. 3 strangers stood there. Anna, a woman in her early 30s with haunted eyes. Elizabeth, an older woman, her face etched with fear. And David, a man in his late 30s, his expression grim and determined. They explained with trembling voices how they had watched the cursed tape and been trapped in this forsaken realm ever since. The entity had already claimed 2 others, snuffing out their lives as easily as a flickering candle in the wind. But then, without warning, Megan's body began to betray her. She had been in this dark world for too long, her frail body unable to withstand the energy it drained from her. She started shaking violently, her vision blurring. She turned to the others, her voice weak yet urgent, telling them to stay together, hide, and wait for her return. She would come back for them. She had to. And then, everything went dark. Megan collapsed, her body fading from the cursed realm as it reappeared in the real world. Her unconscious form lay motionless, pale, and fragile. Jin-Soo, Min-ji, and Hyun-woo rushed to her side, their faces painted with worry. She was in bad shape. Her time in the cursed realm had taken a heavy toll. They had no choice but to let her rest, though they all knew the clock was ticking for the people still trapped in that forsaken place. Hours passed, and Megan's body finally stirred. She woke with a gasp, her chest heaving, as if she had just emerged from drowning. "We need to save them," she rasped, her voice filled with urgency. She wasted no time in explaining what had happened, how she had found 3 more people, trapped just like Diego and Takeshi, and how the dark entity had already killed 2 others. Jin-Soo, Min-ji, and Hyun-woo listened intently, their expressions growing more serious with every word. They all agreed. Megan couldn't go back alone. She was too weak to face the entity again by herself. But sending multiple people into the cursed realm was dangerous. Min-ji warned that the device could malfunction if more than 1 person crossed over, but they had no choice. They were running out of time, and those trapped souls wouldn't survive much longer. After a tense discussion, they formulated a plan. They would use a stopwatch to time the session. After exactly 5 minutes, Hyun-woo would shut the machine off, whether they were ready or not. The timing was crucial. Megan and the others would have to make sure all the trapped souls were touching one another when the machine shut down, or they would risk leaving some behind, forever lost in the cursed realm. With the plan set, Megan, Jin-soo, and Minji braced themselves for the journey ahead. Hyunwoo would stay behind to monitor the machine and handle the timing. Everything was riding on this one moment. The machine whirred to life, its low hum filling the room as the energy began to build. Megan, Jin-soo, and Minji were pulled into the cursed realm once again. The transition was swift, but the world they entered was darker and more oppressive than before. A deep sense of dread settled over them as they took in their surroundings. Something had changed. Megan's instincts told her that the entity had grown stronger. She wasn't sure what had happened, but she could feel it. The air was thicker, heavier. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed through the darkness. Sharp and full of rage. The entity had sensed them. Panic surged through the group as the scream reverberated around them. There was no time to waste. Megan turned, leading Jin-soo and Minji through the endless corridors of the cursed realm. The race against time had begun, and failure wasn't an option. In the next episode of The Last Tape, in the cursed realm, Megan, Jin-soo, and Minji found survivors: Anna, Elizabeth, David, Diego, and Takeshi. Jin-soo warned them not to bring anything back from this dark world. They joined hands and were suddenly transported back to the hotel, relieved but shaken. However, Anna discovered Elizabeth holding ornate keys despite the warning. As night fell, the ground trembled, and the dark entity returned. What will happen next? Subscribe for updates.